Hello guys, this is Saruto Uchiha Storm here and welcome to my channel. Today I am doing what if Naruto was a demon fox and was sent to fairy tale. Please like and subscribe to my channel. Chapter 11. In the place where Fairy Tale's guild once stood, the mages were busy rebuilding, loading up wood and concrete as they laid the foundation for their headquarters. Mirajane, Lisanna, and Flare were giving refreshments to the builders. 3 weeks have passed since the Fairy Tale and Phantom Lord Guild war, and the victorious guild was slowly rebuilding itself from the ground up. The wizards were happily and quickly doing construction work. Man, I can't believe the damn council has grilled us non-stop for a week, Kurama complained as he lied on top of Fox's head. It was standard procedure, Fox commented, carrying some wood. After all, it's not every day that a guild war happens. 1 week before. As the wizards laid the foundation for their new building, the Knights of the Magic Council suddenly appeared, wanting to ask a question. Run away. Natsu and Happy exclaimed in fear as they ran as soon as they saw the knights. Only for them to be caught in a magical trap. Why did the idiots bother? Kurama asked as the two flapped helplessly in the air. UWAH. Makarov yelled, having dreaded this moment. Master, please calm down. Urza exclaimed to the crying guild master. We just want a few questions answered, said the leader of the group, a bespectacled man with hair pulled back with 2 bangs framing his face, lavender eyes behind circular glasses, dressed in a Rune Knight uniform. That is all. The Rune Knights then lined them up and questioned them one by one, asking how the guild war started and whose fault it was. Present. After weeks of non-stop questioning, the council finally left Fairy Tale with a slap on the wrist. But for Phantom Lord, the guild was disbanded due to the start of the guild war, causing millions of property damage. Although when they saw the condition of Jose Porla, who was stripped of his title of Holy Magus, the council asked who had done such damage to him. Makarov replied that it was he who defeated the former guild master. The others who knew the truth tried to say no, but Fox stopped them. They were confused as to why Fox would keep his accomplishments a secret, as if he wanted people to think he was weak. They didn't like it but reluctantly respected his wishes. After answering their questions and paying half the fine, they continued to rebuild, planning to make the guild bigger than the previous one. Fox and Kurama turned to where the voice came from, where Natsu was carrying a large pile of wood. See? I can carry more than you, stripper. Oh yeah? Gray exclaimed, carrying a larger stack of lumber with sacks of cement. What were you saying, Pinky? Natsu grunted before picking up a ridiculously large pile of lumber, cement bags, and cinder blocks. Gray quickly grabbed a similar stack, not wanting to be outdone by Natsu. The two of them could barely stand, their limbs trembling from the weight. Kurama took 2 small sticks and flew over them. He placed the sticks in his pile and all of a sudden both boys fell to the ground, the pile falling on them. Natsu. Gray. Stop messing around. Urza exclaimed, dressed as a construction worker, in beige overalls and a hard hat. Hi, the two from the pile said, their heads poking out. I would help you, but then you won't learn, Fox said as Kurama landed on top of him, a bento box in his hands. Oh yeah? I bet you can't take more than us. Natsu exclaimed. Black Vortex, Fox said, raising his palm toward 3 large piles of wood, concrete sacks, and cinder blocks. His shadow swallowed the stacks before turning into an empty space where the guildmates were looking for more materials. Release. Whoa, they exclaimed as more materials appeared in front of them. Thank you, Fox-san. Grr, that doesn't count. Natsu exclaimed. Keep telling yourself that, Fox said as he put down the empty bento box. Where did you get the lunch box? Gray asked as the two struggled to free themselves. From here, Fox said, pointing to someone hiding behind a pile of wood. She let out a shriek as she quickly ducked behind the pile. It's pretty good. Isn't she from Phantom Lord? Natsu asked confused. The war is over now, so we don't have fights with wizards from a disbanded guild, Fox said. Now, let's get back to rebuilding. The old man seems eager to finish the job. They turned to see their guild master in his giant form, wearing a construction suit as he lifted a large pile of wood with ease, whistling playfully. Natsu and Gray grumbled as they picked up some of the wood from their pile. At this rate, the new guild will be ready in no time, Mirajane cheered as she held up the blueprints. What will the new guild be like? Natsu asked as he, Gray, and Kurama looked at the plans. What the hell? Kurama muttered as the blueprint showed a strange-looking building. What idiot wrote this? Gray asked as he looked at the plans. Mirajane smiled before crying in Lisanna's arms, who was comforting her. Shit, I didn't mean it like that, Mira-san. Gray exclaimed as the people around him glared at him. Well, let's get back to work, Fox said as he walked away. Let's go before Gray-san makes someone else cry. Here's. Kurama flew off Fox's head to help elsewhere. Fox was about to move when he felt someone walking toward him. He turned to look at Loki, who was a little pale and had bags under his eyes. Hey, Fox-san, he said wearily. Are you alright, Loki-san? He asked the playboy. Do you need more seals to stabilize yourself? No, I'm still fine, Loki said with a tired laugh, looking at the only man who knows his secret. He took something out of his coat and handed it to Fox, which was a set of spirit keys. It's Lucy-san's keys. I managed to find them. Can you give them to her, please? Sure, Fox said, taking the keys from Loki, who smiled gratefully. You know, you can trust Lucy-san. She won't judge you for what happened. I know, but I don't trust myself, Loki said with a sad smile. With a wave, he walked away from Fox. Fox put the keys in his cloak before moving on to construction. Since they seemed to be doing well, he decided to go visit Lucy to return the keys to her. He hasn't seen her in a while, so it will be nice to visit, especially since she was in a fragile state of mind. Kurama, I'm going to see Lucy-san, he called out to his furry companion. Do you want to come? What? And stop doing this boring job? Kurama said dramatically before flying towards him and landing on top of his head with a plop. Let's go. Are you going to see Lucy? Natsu asked. I want to come. I haven't seen her since we started building. Yes. Happy said, floating next to Natsu. Yeah, it would be nice to see how she doing, Urza said, her clothes changing to her usual armor and skirt. Well, let's go see her then, Gray said. Fox was surprised but nodded as he led them through the building to Lucy's apartment. He didn't think there would be a time when Fox would be walking around with his teammates when he wasn't on a mission. He felt very good. As they headed to Lucy's apartment, Fox realized something was wrong. Lucy-san isn't here, he commented as he looked out her window. Hey, you're right, Natsu commented as she breathed in, not finding her scent inside of her. How can you know? Gray asked Fox. Something's not right, Fox said as they entered the apartment, with the others in tow. They entered her room, finding it empty and dark. The group looked around the room, seeing that their things were still there. She looks like she's been gone for a day, Kurama commented as he floated off Fox's head as surveyed the room. Where do you think she has gone? Urza asked, confused and concerned. I don't know, Fox said with a shake of his head. Whoa. They all looked at Happy, who was rummaging through the top cabinet and a box fell on him. When the box landed on the ground, they saw that it was a large stack of letters. Letters? Gray asked as Kurama landed near the pile and picked one up later. She received them? No, she wrote them, Kurama said as he looked at the address. And they're addressed to her mother. That can't be right, Fox said. Her mother has been dead for years. What? How do you know? Natsu asked, surprised when Urza looked at the letters. I did some research after the guild war on Lucy's father, Fox replied. Guys, Urza exclaimed, drawing her attention. In her hands was a piece of paper. It says here that Lucy is going home. What? Natsu, Gray, and Happy exclaimed. Is she leaving the guild? Do you think she still feels responsible for what happened? Kurama asked, frowning. Suddenly, the shadows of the apartment swirled around her. Natsu, Gray, Urza, and Happy were suddenly drawn towards Fox as Kurama quickly jumped on her head. Shadows enveloped them as they were teleported out of the apartment. Natsu, Gray, and Happy yelled as they traveled through the shadows. Suddenly, there was a bright light and the three fell to the ground in a mass of limbs as Fox and Urza landed on their feet, Kurama still on top of Fox's head. I think I'm going to puke. Natsu groaned, his cheeks puffing out a bit, looking a bit sick. Where we are, Gray groaned, shaking the stars from his eyes. He then saw a large mansion nearby and saw that they were in the center of a village. Whoa, whose house is that? Let's go, Fox said as he quickly ran towards the mansion. Wait, Natsu exclaimed as they followed him towards the mansion. Suddenly, just as they reached the doors, they opened and Lucy came out, wiping tears from her eyes. Lucy. He jumped as he looked in front of her, seeing her friends running towards her. Guys, she exclaimed as Happy flew to her chest, crying. What are you doing here? How did you get here? Lucy-san, don't leave the guild. Urza exclaimed. Yes. We don't blame you for what happened. Gray exclaimed. Don't quit the guild, Lucy. Natsu exclaimed. I'll kick your dad's ass if it makes you feel any better. What are you talking about? Lucy asked, looking confused. We saw this in her letterbox, Fox replied, showing her the notes. Oh, Lucy said, giggling sheepishly. I'm sorry. I'm not leaving the guild. I just had some personal business to take care of. Are you feeling alright now? Fox asked. Yeah, I'm ready to go home, Lucy said with a smile, causing Natsu and Happy to cheer as Urza, Gray, and Kurama smiled. Still, it's a big mansion you live in, Kurama commented. I know you were rich, but not that rich. And yet you struggle with rent, Fox said. That's admirable. Thanks, I think, Lucy said with a smile as she turned towards her mansion, a wistful smile on her face. I'm going to miss this place. This is where my mom used to play with me. We used to go explore our private mountains. It was fun. Private mountains? Well, yes, Lucy said, looking at her friends as she pointed to the mountains around the village. Those mountains are the private property of my family. Lucy blinked as most of them were looking at her in shock. She jumped when Natsu and Gray greeted her. Greetings, Lucy Ujisama, Gray exclaimed. Say all that like it's nothing. Natsu exclaimed as they started to dance the same dance they do every time Urza scares them. Natsu and Gray have been defeated. Happy exclaimed as she turned to Urza. Urza Taicho, please give us your orders. This sure seems like a good place to live. Urza said, looking out over the horizon. Oh no. Even Urza has been hit. Happy exclaimed in panic. Lucy, Kurama, and Fox watched as the others were still in disbelief. Lucy suddenly laughed, feeling happy to be back with her friends. Suddenly, she felt a hand on her head, caressing her. Surprised, she looked at Fox. Well, let's go before dark, she said as she walked towards the four of them, grabbing Natsu and Gray, and dragging them along. Kurama pushed Urza away, making her follow them. Lucy watched them go before smiling and grabbing a floating Happy, running after them. Oh, Lucy-san, Fox said as she took something from her cloak. Then he took out Lucy's keys. My keys. Lucy exclaimed happily as she took them from Fox's hand. I've been looking for these. Thanks, Fox-kun. Don't thank me, it was thanks to Loki-san, said Fox. Loki? Lucy said surprised. She reminded of the infamous playboy from Fairy Tale, who ran away from her when she realized that she was a celestial spirit mage, so she has little interaction with him. That was nice of him. Lucy-san, Fox said, causing Lucy to look at him. Loki-san doesn't dislike you, he mistrusts you. Mistrustful? Of me? Lucy asked, confused before gasping. Is it because I'm too beautiful? It's because you're a heavenly spirit mage, Fox replied. Before he joined Fairy Tale, he was involved with a heavenly spirit mage. Really? Lucy asked, surprised. Who? I can't say, Fox said. I've already said too much. Just know he's a good person. Well, if Fox-kun said he is, I'll believe him, Lucy said with a smile. Thanks for coming for me. Don't thank me, it's natural for me to worry about a friend, Batbeo, Fox said, scratching his cheek a little. Lucy looked at him with a surprised expression on her face. To her, it seemed that he was embarrassed. She started laughing, blushing slightly. Despite how he acted, Fox can be cute at times. She looked up at him, looking at the metal plate where his eyes were hidden. She remembered when she saw his eyes when she saw those blue eyes looking at her with concern after he saved her. Her heart began to pound as her face turned red. Are you okay? Fox asked, noticing Lucy's heart rate increasing. I'm fine, Lucy suddenly exclaimed. It's just, a lot happened today. Well, take it easy then, Fox said. Fox, couldn't you just teleport us back? Kurama asked, turning back to them. I could, but sometimes it's good to take the scenic route, Fox replied. Well, can't argue with that, Kurama said as he suddenly landed on Fox's head. Times like these don't come often, after all. Yes, Lucy said with a small smile, looking at her friends. They do not do it. The group spent the rest of the trip in silence, enjoying each other's company. Meanwhile, back at Era, Seagrain was sitting in his chair, running some errands. He smirked as a pair of arms wrapped around his neck. So, are the rumors true? He asked Ultir. Yes, Ultir said with a nod. It seems our mysterious friend likes to keep up the act of being weak. It seems unusual, but it could work in our favor, Seagrain said with a smile. It's almost time for that. We have to make sure everything goes exactly as planned. A few days later. Everyone, we can finally accept guild applications again. Mirajane cheered from the temporary bar, displaying a new request board filled with new requests. The wizards cheered before running to the board. Lucy sat on a stool, watching her comrades happily accept some requests. Next to her was Fox, drinking his well, with Kurama hanging from his head. It's getting noisy again, Kurama grumbled as he looked at the wizards. Okay, Fox said as he poured himself another cup. We could use some normalcy after the days we have. Yeah, I really miss this noise, Lucy agreed before making a face. Are you alright, Lucy-san? Flair asked as she helped tend the bar with Lisa-na and Mirajane. Yes, Lucy said as she rested her head on the table. It's just. Aquarius didn't hold back. Retrospective scene. Brat. Aquarius exclaimed as he held up a lollipop. I'll teach you to drop the keys. No. Lucy cried as she ran through her apartment, avoiding Aquarius. Fox-kun. Kurama-san, help me. I'm sorry, Lucy-san, Fox said quietly as he and Kurama just watched, the latter more amused. But consider it a lesson to never drop valuables from him again. Damn. Help me, Kaya. Lucy cried out as she felt Aquarius grab her and pull her into her lap, holding her down. No. At least not in front of Fox-kun. Beat. Kaya. End of flashback. Yeah, that mermaid of yours really does have an amazing arm, Kurama said with a smirk. I bet that ass of yours is red. Shut up. Lucy grunted before her hand went from her to her throbbing butt, still feeling the throbbing pain. Bad enough she had to do it in front of you. You could have stopped her instead of letting her finish. If we do, then you won't learn anything, Fox replied, sipping sake from him. Is this about making you guys worry about me leaving the guild? Maybe, Fox replied, causing Lucy to pout at him. Wow, sounds harsh, Lucy-chan, Lisa-na commented with a drop of sweat. Do you want me to cool it down for you? Gray asked, holding up a palm that was releasing an icy mist. I don't need any of that pseudo-sexual harassment, Lucy grumbled. Hey Lucy, can you show us your red butt? Happy asked. At least try to be subtle, you stupid cat. Lucy exclaimed. I wonder if I can make it even redder, Natsu commented as she held out a burning hand. You are a monster. Lucy exclaimed hysterically as Natsu laughed evilly. Natsu-san, get down, Fox warned. Bastard. Urza exclaimed as a barrel smashed into Natsu. When did Laxus come back? Gray commented as Natsu stood up, rubbing his head. Urza-san is really mad, Lucy commented in a concerned tone. I dare you to say that again, she exclaimed angrily. Then I'll say it again, Laxus said, not caring about the look Urza was giving him. Our guild doesn't need weaklings. Look what happened? You guys couldn't even defend the headquarters. The wizards all looked at Laxus, but they were too scared to attack. Laxus then noticed Lucy, causing his mockery to grow. And look, the weak little princess who caused the war, he said, causing Lucy to wince. If it wasn't for you, Fairy Tail would still be standing. Enough is enough, Laxus-san, a calm voice said, causing Laxus to look behind Lucy. Fox walked in front of Lucy as Kurama landed on Lucy's head, surprising her. Everyone was shocked to see Fox facing Laxus. Oh, and what are you going to do about it, Fox? Laxus asked as he stood up and walked over to Fox. You did get hit by that Phantom Lord trash after all. Honestly, I'm disappointed in you. They all gulped as they felt the tension rise between the two of them. Urza stepped between them, ready to intervene if necessary. He knew that Fox was not as weak as he showed himself to the guild, so he knew that a fight between the two would be devastating. HMPH, Laxus simply snorted and brushed past Fox. I don't need to waste my time on you. Once I take over the guild, the weaklings will be kicked out. Fairy Tail doesn't need any weaklings. You're right, Laxus-san, Fox said, making Laxus look at him. Fairy Tail doesn't need any weaklings. Everyone seemed surprised that Fox would say such a thing. Lucy looked at Fox, a look of fear in her eyes, while Urza looked surprised. But there are no wimps in Fairy Tail, Fox continued, looking at Laxus, who could see an image of a giant fox growling behind him. Do not forget. Laxus looked at Fox before snapping his teeth and walking away. Once he was gone, all the wizards cheered, shocking Fox. Man, Fox sure is something Laxus is opposed to. Who knew he could be this cool? Damn, he was afraid Laxus would fry him alive. Fox looked down, a little embarrassed by his compliments. He turned when he felt a hand on his shoulder, sensing that it was Lucy, who had a smile on his face. Thank you, Fox-kun, he said as Kurama flew back over Fox's head. For defending me. I only told him the truth, Fox commented. There are no wimps in Fairy Tail. Lucy noted the sincerity in her voice, making her smile and blush slightly. She then turned to the direction Laxus had walked away, frowning slightly. I can't believe someone like him is in Fairy Tail, he grumbled, remembering his promise once he became guild master. There's no way for him to become guild master, right? Actually, there's a very good chance he is, Urza said as she looked down. Since Laxus is Master Makarov's grandson, it is very likely that he will become guild master. No way, Lucy said, looking concerned. There's no need to worry about that, Fox said, calming Lucy down. Despite how he acts, Laxus-san is a good guy and cares about the guild. Sometimes he is very awkward. I don't see it, Lucy commented, not imagining that Laxus was a kind and caring guy. I'm surprised you're defending him, Fox-kun. I and Laxus-san have history, Fox replied as he turned in the direction Laxus was walking, sensing the surprise Lucy and Urza had. Trust me when I say he's a good guy. Very well, if you say so, Urza said with a smile before pulling out a request which he accepted. Here, why don't we all take a quest together? Really? Lucy took it, seeing that it was a request to stop an illegal magic school. It's been a while. Natsu. Gray. We're going on a mission, Urza called out to Natsu and Gray. Huh? When did we start doing missions together? Gray asked. Since we became a team, Urza replied. Huh? When did we become a team? Gray asked. Yeah, I don't want to be strippers' teammates here. Natsu exclaimed. Who wants to be your teammate, Pinky? Gray exclaimed, causing the two of them to collide. Are you two fighting? Urza asked, releasing a threatening aura. No, we are not. Yes. Lucy chuckled as Gray and Natsu acted like friends, sweating in fear. Fox started to walk away before Urza grabbed him by the shoulder. Wait, Fox-san, Urza said. You and Kurama will come with us. Huh? Since when are we going with you? Kurama asked. Are you sure? Fox asked, turning to her. You're our comrade, we want you on our team, Urza said with a smile as Lucy nodded as Natsu and Gray looked at each other. Era, Mirajane said with a smile. I have never seen such a powerful team before. Yes. This might be the strongest team in Fairy Tail. Lee-sana agreed with a smile. Well, they're strong, for a bunch of brats, commented. Wow, Flare commented with sparkling eyes. I think I might give it a try, Fox said as he turned to look at them. Then let's go, Urza said with a smile, raising her fist in the air, causing everyone to clap. 3 days later. Lucy rested her head on the bar, crying over the failed job. Fox was next to her, patting her on the back awkwardly while Kurama was in his usual spot on Fox's head. I take it the mission didn't go well? Mirajane asked laughing as Lucy continued to cry. It wasn't like that, Fox said. We stopped the school, but I think we did more harm than good. I managed to stop the bomb, but it was too late to stop Natsu-san and Gray-san. You can say that again, Kurama said with a snort. I think that town regretted hiring us. At the very least, they regret hiring those two idiots. What happened? Flare asked curiously. Natsu and Gray had an argument when they were fighting the enemy, so they destroyed the village, Fox explained. At least they defeated the wizards. I think the villagers would have preferred the illegal school to Natsu and Gray saving them, Kurama grumbled. And because of that, the reward money was reduced, Lucy moaned, tears welling up in her eyes. I barely have enough for my rent. Man, to think you used to be rich, Kurama said, laughing. Well, I'll go now, Fox said as he walked over to the request board. Going? Lucy asked, looking at Fox. My regular client sent in a request to protect his trailer, Fox answered as he looked at the board. Strange. Where is it? He felt someone behind him. He turned to Kana, who was unusually shy and kept the request from him. Kana-san? He asked her, confused since they hadn't spoken in a long time. Hey, Fox, she said, trying to sound with her usual confidence. I was wondering if I can join me on this job. Why? He asked, genuinely curious. Well, the reward is free booze, Kana answered, avoiding eye contact, even though Fox's eyes were covered. I see. Fox said, bowing his head. Kana swallowed nervously, feeling a little sweat trickle down from her head. Okay. Really? Kana asked, surprised. I don't see why not, Fox said. Good. Kana said with a wide smile. Let's go then. She surprised Fox by grabbing his arm and leading him out of the construction site, with many eyes following them. Wow, Kana-san is getting so brave, Lee-sana commented before turning to her sister who was releasing a silent killing aura. That's what happens when you're too slow, Mirane. Lee-sana then turned to Lucy, who was pouting as she stared at the ground. She laughed, seeing that this was going to be fun to watch. Later. It's rare for Fox-san to have company, especially a beauty like your friend, Mado commented as he wheeled his cart down the road. Not that I'm complaining. No offense, but it's nice to have beauty around. Unless they're troublesome, Kurama commented, resting on Fox's head. And they usually are. Fox was sitting on top of the car, as usual, looking relaxed. But he was using his chakra to sense his surroundings, making sure nothing would ambush them. Kana was sitting next to him, looking nervous. She wasn't even drinking. Why did I do this? She sobbed internally, her face red as she avoided looking at Fox. Did I drink too much to ask to go on this mission with him? Or maybe I was too sober. I should have drunk more. Damn. Kana had no idea what prompted her to go to Fox with this quest. She noticed how close the new girl was to her, and then she noticed Mirajane getting more forward with Fox, giving her ramen and talking to him. Not to mention how Levi seems to develop feelings for Fox after her accidental kiss. Which doesn't count since she was kissing the mask. Doesn't count. She has known Fox since he joined the guild, a calm person whose face was completely covered. Nobody knows his name, his face, hell, they doubted if it was him or her. She always saw him at the guild, sitting alone at the corner table, not talking to anyone. It didn't seem like the two could ever interact, with her being the boisterous, flirtatious alcoholic and him being the mysterious recluse, but she somehow talked to him almost 2 years ago. It was after the S-class exam that she failed. Retrospective scene. Kana stumbled through the rainy streets, with an empty bottle in her hands, her face flushed and her eyes sunken. She failed the S-class exam again, losing to the mysterious Mistogen. This was the 4th time she took the exam and she failed again. She grunted as she fell to the sidewalk, dropping the empty bottle, which shattered on the ground. She just lay on the cold, wet pavement, slowly closing her eyes, not registering the footsteps she heard. When she woke up, she found herself in a room she had never seen before, right next to a roaring fireplace, dry and covered with a warm blanket, sitting on a wooden chair. Where am I? She said as she stood up, looking around the place. It was a simple room with a wooden floor, walls, and furniture, with scrolls stacked on the shelves and tables, weapons full of hunters, an apothecary grinder, and strange-smelling herbs. Who put me here? Oh, I'm glad to see you're awake, said a voice behind her, making her jump. She turned to see Fox with a cup of hot tea. You passed out in the rain, so I brought you to my house. Huh? Is this Fox home? Kana exclaimed in shock. Why do you look so surprised? Fox asked as she handed him the tea. Well, I didn't think your place would be like this, she pointed out in Kana as she accepted the tea. I thought it would be dark and gloomy. It's actually nice. Then, why were you so depressed, Kana-san? Fox asked as he sat in the chair across from her, making her look at him in shock. Is it because of the S-class exams? Kana looked at her tea, using it to warm her hands. She looked at her reflection, seeing the defeated look in her eyes. You shouldn't be depressed about failing, Kana-san, Fox commented, causing Kana to look at him. It's pretty impressive that you get selected 4 years in a row. It shows you're a force to be reckoned with. But I tried for 4 years and still couldn't get that promotion, Kana said, looking down. I need to get that promotion. Does it have something to do with your relationship with Gildart-san? Fox asked. Kana dropped her tea, causing it to spill on the floor, and she looked at Fox in shock. He never told anyone why he joined the guild, not even Master Makarov. How did you know? She stammered in shock, looking at Fox with wide eyes. Your magical signature is almost similar to Gildart-san's, Fox explained, making Kana look confused. The family tends to share similarities in their magic signature. You and Gildart-san share a lot of similarities in your magic signature, just like the Strauss siblings have a similar magic signature. That's why you can use the same kind of magic. But I can't use the same magic as Gildart's, said Kana, trying to draw Fox away from the truth. That's true, but you can use the same level of magic as him, Fox said, causing Kana to look at him. You have the potential to overcome it. She seemed surprised when he said that. He barely spoke to anyone, and here he is, cheering her on. She looked at her hands, trembling a little. It must have been painful keeping it to yourself, Fox said, sensing her rampant emotions. If you want to talk about it, I'm all ears. Kana didn't know why, but she started to tell Fox everything. Tears welled up in her eyes as the secret she kept hidden for years finally came out. When she finished, she felt as if a weight had been lifted from her. So, you want to become an S-class magician, because you want to feel safe when talking to Gildart-san? Fox concluded after Kana finished her story, handing her a new cup of tea. Well, yeah, Kana nodded, feeling a little embarrassed to cry in front of him. I don't think you should be afraid to tell Gildart-san, but it's your decision, Fox said before starting to ponder. If you want I can help you. End of flashback. After that, she spent a year training with Fox. She remembered the hellish physical training, with the gravity seals, running, sparring, and restricting his alcoholic beverages. But she remembered how much fun it was meeting Fox, seeing him in a different light, slowly getting sucked into him. But when she got to the S-class exam, she was so nervous that she couldn't concentrate, and she failed the second test. She was so embarrassed that she started avoiding Fox, ashamed that she had let him down. Now, seeing how Lucy and Mirajane started to get closer to Fox, she decided to stop being afraid and try to reconnect with him. At this moment, she was trapped. What can she do to start a conversation with a guy she's avoided for almost a year? There's trouble, Fox suddenly said as he turned right. He gently waved at the birds and stood up. A small group. Not that strong, though they can use magic. Kana turned to where he was looking, narrowing her eyes. As usual, she couldn't see what he saw. All she saw were some boulders and trees. Where? She asked, looking around her. Under us, Fox answered as the ground in front of the cart suddenly exploded and a couple of figures jumped out. Four of the ugliest girls dressed in rags got into the front of the car, and they were led by a short fat man in rags, with long, greasy hair that reached his shoulders, and an uncomfortably long nose that looked like a beard. Kana-san, do you want to take care of this? Fox asked, looking at Kana. Me? Kana asked in a surprised tone. Really? Oh, are you going to hide behind this ugly ant? Everlu scoffed, making Kana look angry. Just carefully, after we escaped from the prison, my beautiful maidens were training to take revenge, boy. Card magic, lightning fate. Before Everlu could attack, he and his harem of ugly maids were shocked by Kana's card magic, who had a cold look on her face as the man who insulted her was struck by electricity. When he finished, Everlu and his harem fell to the ground, burning, smoking, and occasionally shaking. Man, talk about water, Kurama commented as Fox used his magic to swallow the group unconscious in his shadow. He must have touched a nerve. Nice job, Kana-san, Fox said as he looked at her, making her blush. You've gotten stronger since the last time we met. Well, sometimes, I do the training regimen you taught me, Kana said as she looked at the ground. It was true, whenever she was on a mission away from the guild, she did the training she did under Fox, promising to pass the upcoming S-class exam. I'm surprised, Fox commented. I thought you stopped doing that. Why? Kana asked. Because you hated me, Fox answered, causing Kana to look at him in surprise. Why do you think I hate you? Kana asked. Well, because I let you down, Fox explained, rubbing the back of his neck. I promised you that you would become an S-class mage, but you didn't. And then you avoided me, so I thought you were mad for me. I wasn't mad at you. Kana exclaimed, causing Fox to face her. She looked down a bit, embarrassed by her outburst. I thought you were mad at me. But, I wasn't mad at you, Fox said. To be fair, she couldn't really tell with your face covered like that, Kurama said in a deadpan tone. I see, said Fox with a drop of sweat. He then bowed to Kana, surprising her. I'm sorry, Kana-san. I assumed you hated me without knowing the facts first and ended up forcing our friendship. And no. It wasn't your fault, Kana said. It's my fault for not talking to you. But it was my fault for not going with you. But you couldn't have known that, so it's my fault. How about we skip the middleman and say it's your fault? Kurama said in a deadpan tone. Yes, that seems acceptable, Fox said with a nod before turning to Kana. Kana-san, although it's been a long time, I'd like to catch up. Only on one condition, Kana said with a smile. You share a drink with me. I can do that, Fox said, a smile behind his mask. Kana smiled widely as they continued on their way, feeling that the gap between her and Fox had narrowed. She now needed to get ahead of Lucy, Levi, and Mirajane. Meanwhile, Fox was happy to reconnect with an old friend. End Chapter 11. Chapter 12 Fallen Leaves. It was a clear day in the Hidden Leaf Village, with not a cloud in the sky. Although the sky was clear, the atmosphere was not. They were tense, the feeling of fear and pain in the air. At the Hokage Tower, Tsunade was looking at the various reports on her table. One of the recent reports was from Team Guy, about the failed rescue mission. Last month, Suna was attacked by the Akatsuki, taking the cage. They asked Konoha for help, so Tsunade sent a 5-man team to help them, consisting of Team Guy, Kakashi, and Sakura. They managed to save the cage's brother, but they couldn't rescue the cage. Her sister died trying to save her brother, along with most of the shinobi from him, and 2 members of Team Guy died. She sighed wearily, remembering the backlash. Her relationship with Suna was strained by her not being able to rescue the cage, not to mention losing 2 of her shinobi. For some strange reason, the bodies disappeared without a trace, causing her to worry that Akatsuki had taken them, or worse, her former teammate Orochimaru. Thinking of him made her think of another problem, Sayuri Uchiha. 3 years ago, after the defection of the Uchiha, the village was divided. Most of the shinobi wanted her executed for betraying the village, but the other half wanted to spare her so they could get the Sharingan back. It was a disaster for her to hear the two sides bicker like children. Then there was the situation with Naruto. She remembered what happened when the villagers discovered his death. They celebrate. They sang, laughed, ate, and drank like there was no tomorrow. The younger shinobi were surprised this time, seeing so many people celebrate Naruto's death. They knew he was annoying and they made such pranks on him, but they didn't think that was enough for people to celebrate his death. It was then that they finally learned the truth about Naruto Uzumaki and the burden he carried. The younger generation was shocked to hear the charge from him and some of them were angry at the older generation. Some always wondered why the adults hated Naruto, but they never questioned it and just kept going, bullying him, teasing him, laughing at him, avoiding him. The families were tense, with the younger generation feeling betrayed by the secret and guilty over how they treated Naruto. Some of them left their homes to live alone, refusing to listen to the excuses of their elders. It got worse when Tsunade revealed Naruto's parentage. Some were shocked and distressed when they found out who his parents were, others denied it and refused to believe her. Konoha split apart and Tsunade was surprised that it hadn't collapsed yet. Perhaps that was the only good Akatsuki did for the village, with the other villages preparing for an ambush, especially Kumo and Iwa, who were focusing their resources on protecting their Jinchurikis. Speaking of Akatsuki, according to Jiraiya's spy network, the group of S-rank missing nins was becoming more active recently, having taken Suna's Jinchuriki, and now they're mobilizing towards the small village of Taki and the village of Akatsuki, of Kumo. Tsunade sighed as she leaned into her chair, turning her attention to the window. She stared up at the clear sky, a sense of foreboding seizing her old bones of her. Despite the clear sky, Tsunade couldn't help but feel the clouds of war looming over Konoha. Meanwhile, located near the third training ground, Kakashi was looking at the kunai-shaped stone where the names of all fallen heroic shinobi were placed, which included the name of his fallen teammate, Obito Uchiha. The last to have his name engraved in stone was his student, Naruto Uzumaki. Kakashi has many regrets in his life, disowning his father after his death, the death of his teammates during the war, the death of his sensei and his wife, and now, his contribution to the death of his student. He focused his attention more on Sayuri than on Naruto and Sakura, despite saying how important teamwork was. Therefore, without realizing it, he killed his student, with his own technique no less. He perked up when he heard some footsteps. He didn't turn his head, but he knew who he was. Hello, Sakura-san, he greeted the pink-haired Kunoichi. She grew taller, with slightly longer hair, wearing a red sleeveless shirt, black gloves, black shorts with a white sash tied around her waist, and a bag tied to her waist and a pair of black sandals, her red headband protector tied to her head. Kakashi-sensei, Sakura answered as she stood next to him, looking at the stone monument with a sad look in her eyes. It's been 3 years since then. Yes, Kakashi said with a nod. It's funny, Sakura said with a humorless smile. When we became a team, I didn't think I'd miss Naruto so much. She remembered her academy days when she used to be close to Naruto. But when her parents saw that, they told her to stay away from him. As the good daughter that she was to her, she followed her parents' orders and avoided Naruto. Then she saw how most of the children started to mistreat him, and when the adults did nothing about it, she somehow found herself mistreating him, calling him names and hitting him sometimes. Even when they became a team, she was still roughing him up. It was only after the wave mission that she began to see Naruto differently. He wasn't like she thought he was, a weakling who got lucky. Despite being such a fool, he trained harder than her, even asking her for help during the tree climbing exercise. She also saw another side of him when he cried for the fake hunter nin who was killed by Kakashi's Chidori. After that, she treated him better, no longer hitting him or anything like that. She always noticed the longing look he had towards Sayuri, who turned her back on him. It's not like she blamed him. She knew how close those two were back then. She remembered how Naruto would come to her like a lost puppy, despite her cold attitude towards him, always asking her to go out with him. Every time she refused, Sakura could see the pain in his eyes, hiding it behind a smile. She remembered that after the wave mission, Sayuri was actually opening up to both her and Naruto, making the blonde happy and hopeful, but changed after Orochimaru gave her that cursed mark, becoming hostile and almost unstable. Even with that, Naruto was still chasing after her. In the process, he grew distant towards her and Kakashi after learning that the two hid the curse mark from him. Basically, his gear was gone after the Chunin exams, barely working but still acting like it could be fixed. I never got a chance to apologize, Sakura said as tears fell from her eyes. I should have been a better teammate to him, a better friend, I shouldn't have listened to my parents, I'm sorry Naruto. We all are, Kakashi said, laying a hand on Sakura, a grim expression on his face. The two fell silent as they gazed at the memorial stone, the only sound being the rustle of leaves and Sakura's soft sobs. A few minutes later, Sakura wiped away her tears before saying goodbye to Kakashi and walking away from her. Kakashi looked at the stone one last time before it disappeared in a swirl of leaves. Meanwhile, at Training Ground 8, two girls were having an intense training session, their bodies moving fluidly and gracefully as they exchanged blows as they blocked and dodged, their blows sending out small shockwaves. After a few intense minutes, the older girl sent a palm strike at the younger girl, which she blocked with her arms. The attack sent her skidding across the ground before stopping near the trees. Okay, that's enough, Hinata Hyuga said, lightly sweating and panting. She grew up in the last 3 years, with her hair grown longer reaching her lower back, wearing a dark purple sleeveless vest with armor underneath, a black skirt, a bag attached to her right thigh, white wristbands, and a black shinobi sandals, her headband protector tied around her neck. Hi, Nei-san, said Hanabi Hyuga, Hinata's 11-year-old sister, as she took a deep breath. She wore a brown vest over a blue V-neck shirt, white wristbands, black shorts, and black sandals. Her hair was short and lopsided, and her white pupils had a slight lavender tint, like her sister's. You've gotten stronger. Thank you, Hinata said with a small smile before looking up, watching the clouds go by. Ever since Naruto died, she regretted not being brave enough to befriend him or confess her feelings to him. She was always jealous of Sayuri Uchiha, she being the only girl Naruto would ever look at. But when she killed him, she started to hate her. After crying, she started to train harder, her shell slowly cracked and she became more confident. And with confidence, she came on strong, training hard with both Neji and Hanabi, surprising both of them at how fast she was progressing, though the former was sad at the reason for her change. Then tragedy struck when Neji died in the failed mission, making Hinata and Hanabi sad that they lost him, but also making Hinata more determined to become stronger. Here, Nei-san, Hanabi said, handing a bottle of water to Hinata, who took it gratefully. Thank you, Hanabi-chan, she said with a small smile as she opened it, taking a refreshing sip. How is everything at home? Not so good, Hanabi said with a frown. Ever since Neji-Nisan disappeared, the whole clan has been arguing. Hinata nodded sadly, as the village couldn't find Neji's body, which made them fear that his eyes would be taken and used against him, and who knows what else they were doing to his body. Don't worry, Hanabi-chan, Hinata said, looking determined. We will find Neji-Nisan's body and give him a proper burial. Hanabi looked at her before nodding. The two rested in silence, sitting on a nearby tree. Hinata looked at Hanabi, one of the few precious people she had left. She had a determined gleam in her eyes, vowing to protect her little sister. I swear on my Nindo, my ninja way. Land of rice fields. Beneath the soil of the hundreds of rice fields throughout the area was hidden Sound Village, the town created by the traitorous Orochimaru, filled with ninjas and runaway slaves, used for inhuman labor or experiments. In one of her private rooms, lying on her bed, was Sayuri Uchiha, a blank expression on her face. Her hair has grown long, is tied in a ponytail, she wears a loose white gi, revealing her endowed and bandaged chest, black fingerless gloves under purple armguards, black shorts, purple shin guards, black sandals, and a bag attached to his waist. On her neck was the cursed mark that Orochimaru gave her years ago. Although her face was calm, her mind was confused. Inside the recess of her mind, she was fighting the white snakes wrapped around her, holding her down. Suddenly, another Sayuri appeared in front of her, this one had white skin and yellow eyes with open pupils. Are you still fighting? Said the white Sayuri in a mocking tone. Just give up. We both know there is no escape. Shut up. Sayuri exclaimed as she struggled harder. Once I kill Itachi, I'm going to kill Orochimaru next. We both know that's not going to happen, white Sayuri said as she leaned over the writhing snakes and petted them. This was the deal, great power to your body. You lied to me. Sayuri exclaimed angrily. If I had known you would do to me, I never would have accepted it. But you agreed, white Sayuri said with a sneer as it grabbed Sayuri's chin, lifting her face up. You accepted and listened to every whisper I said. I told you to ignore him to get stronger. To envy him for getting stronger than you. Hate him for trying to stop you. And kill him for getting in your way. But hey, killing him paid off, for what you should not complain about. Sayuri gritted her teeth in anger as she continued to fight. She tried to ignore what white Sayuri was saying, but she couldn't help but see that it was right, she accepted the power. After Itachi massacred her entire clan, she began pushing Naruto away, because she was afraid that Itachi would kill because of her. So, she began to distance herself from him, hoping that he would move away from her. But he didn't, and she was slightly annoyed that he was so stubborn, even with all the hurtful words she said. It didn't help that they became part of the same team. But then the wave mission happened, and she saw how strong Naruto became when they fought Zabuza and the false hunter Nin, somehow pitting himself against them, even using a mysterious power he had never heard of before. When the Chunin exams began, Sayuri was deciding whether or not to rekindle her friendship with Naruto, as she seemed to be getting stronger, but then they met Orochimaru in the Forest of Death and gave him the cursed mark. Since then, something strange happened to her. She kept hearing a voice in her head. At first, she tried to ignore it, but she kept getting stronger and more persistent. She thought about telling someone, but she was afraid that people would call her crazy and force her to leave the army. Then, when the preliminaries started, the voice in her head helped her defeat her opponent, so she started talking to it, listening to its advice to help her get stronger. It was telling her to keep distancing herself from Naruto, telling her that he would weaken her. When she fought Itachi and found out that he was after Naruto, she began to believe her voice. She became more violent, prone to whipping after waking up from her genjutsu-induced coma. She pushed Naruto away, being tougher than usual, growing jealous of how stronger he became after only a few weeks. She then met Orochimaru's elite unit, the Sound Four, who offered her to go to Orochimaru to become strong. Hearing her voice, she betrayed her people by stealing the sealing scroll and left with Sound Four, where they began to complete the cursed mark. When it was finally completed, she felt like a new person, more powerful than she had been before. And yet Naruto could still fight her just as well. Retrospective scene. Sayuri panted heavily as her appearance slowly returned to normal. She surveyed the battlefield, bewildered at the damage they caused, barely recognizing the landscape that had changed so much. This is incredible, she thought as she looked at her hands, ignoring the pain in her right arm. This is the power I wield, and yet he managed to fight me equally. She turned her head towards Naruto, shocked and barely aware of her right hand gone and her left hand clutching the scroll tightly. She could go look for him, but she didn't have time. The battle took longer than she thought, and she needed to leave before more Konoha nins came to take her. She turned around and was about to walk away. Wait, her voice said in her head, causing her to stop. Are you going to leave it there? He can't move. He won't come for me, Sayuri said. Don't risk it, said the voice. Kill him. Her eyes widened at what her voice was telling her to do. She turned her head to look at Naruto, the one she had betrayed for power, the one she mistreated to become strong, the one she pushed to protect. No, Sayuri said as she started to walk away from him. He's no longer a threat. I don't need to kill him. Suddenly, her body stopped moving, surprising her. She watched as white snakes suddenly wrapped around her before pushing her into her mindscape. You have no choice, her voice said as she turned to face Naruto. Wait, what's going on? Sayuri exclaimed as she felt her body move on its own. She watched as she stopped in front of Naruto, who was looking at her weakly, before beckoning her with her hands to Chidori. Wait, stop. I can finally break free from you, Sayuri said as she grabbed Naruto by the shirt and lifted him up. No, do not do it. With this, I can kill Itachi, she raised the Chidori, aiming at Naruto's chest. Stop, stop. Bye, Naruto, she sank the Chidori into his chest. No. Sayuri watched helplessly as she took her hand off Naruto's chest, seeing the pain and sadness in her eyes, all directed at her. She then watched as the body fell into the water, watching it float away. It's done, her voice said before Sayuri turned and started to walk away from her as her Sharingan evolved, tears flowing from her eyes hidden by the rain hitting her face. No, Naruto. End of flashback. Since then, she has been trying to free herself from Orochimaru's cursed mark, but she let it grow inside her, making it too strong to control. So here she was, trapped in her own mind, watching her body train, getting stronger day by day. So, she decided to wait, offering her time until she gets the chance to escape from her, and then she will kill Orochimaru and then Itachi. Then, once this is done, she will do the only thing left to redeem herself for her crimes. Unknown. Inside a dark cave, the Akatsuki members were gathering, their holographic forms gathered in a circle behind a stone statue, discussing their current situation. Only two of them weren't holograms, they were standing in the circle, their forms hidden in the dark. Yes, even though we have captured the Ichibi and Nanabi Jinchuriki before we could extract all the Biju chakra, the bodies disappear, said one of the members. That's weird, said another member. The fact that Ichibi Jinchuriki's burned corpse wasn't there to be seen is an insult to my art, another member exclaimed angrily. Not to mention the bodies of those two Konoha nins who tried to help them also disappeared, said his companion. Too bad. They would have been great puppets. So, it's not just the Jinchuriki but other shinobi as well, a calm voice said, its red eyes piercing the darkness. We can worry about that later, the man in the center said, his purple, wavy eyes staring into red ones. How's the search for the Kyuubi Jinchuriki going? There is no trace of the body of the little punk, said a man next to the red eyes. Maybe he disappeared like those other Jinchuriki. If that's true, then it will be troublesome for our mission without Nine-Tail Fox's chakra, a member said. Even if we gather the rest, we can't activate the plan without the 9 of us. Until we know more, let's focus on the remaining Jinchuriki, the leader said. Itachi, are you and Kisame close to Kumo? There is only 1 day left for us to reach the village. Alright, since there are 2 of them, make sure you capture them with caution. Kakuzu and Hidan, are you near Iwa? Yes. Then also capture the Yanbi with caution. Sasori, you and Deidara capture the Rokubi Jinchuriki. And the Sanbi? Before we could extract it from the host of him, he escaped. I will personally take care of the Sanbi. Dismiss. With that, the holograms disappeared, leaving the red eye alone with his mate. So, we're after 2 of them, huh? The man said, smiling to reveal shark-like teeth. This will be fun. The red eyes said before the 2 of them emerged from the caves, ready to begin their mission. With Fox, Naruto, and Kana. I didn't know you could hold your drinks so well. Kana exclaimed, her face reddened from all the alcohol she drank. I have a high tolerance for alcohol, Fox answered, not sounding drunk despite the amount he drank. Their guildmates looked at them in disbelief, looking at the number of empty bottles stacked in front of them. Kurama was sitting on Fox's head, yawning, while Mirajane had a forced smile on her face as she handed them another bottle while Lisana and Flare cleaned up the empty bottles. It's been almost an hour since the 3 of them returned from their mission, and as soon as they arrived, Kana dragged Fox to the bar and the 2 started drinking. Everyone was shocked that Kana invited Fox to drink with her and was even more shocked to see Fox match her for the bottle and not get hit like Kana. Ah, not fair, Kana said in a muddy tone as she rested her head on the bar, looking at Fox. I was hoping to get you drunk so you could start talking about yourself. Too bad for you then, Fox said as he finished another cup in one gulp. You're so mean, Kana said with a smile before laying her head on the counter. I had fun, Fox. Me too, Fox said, having enjoyed reconnecting with Kana. He turned his head when he heard light snoring. Kana passed out from drinking. Fox smiled behind his mask as he put his cup down. You 2 seem to have gotten closer, Mirajane said with a sweet smile, leaking some killing intent, causing Fox to break a sweat. It's so nice to see Kana having fun. Somehow, I don't believe you, Fox and Kurama thought as their guild mates moved further away from the bar while Lisana giggled as she patted a startled Flare on the head. Fox could also sense that Juvia was nearby, releasing some killing intent from behind some boxes. They were interrupted when they heard some bickering. Turning around, they saw Natsu and Gray having their usual fight. Urza wasn't there, so they were free to call each other. Did you have another fight? Kurama asked, noticing that they were covered in bandages. No, they took him out of a pillow fight, Lisana replied with a giggle. Idiots, Kurama said as he closed his eyes. I won that pillow fight. Natsu exclaimed. You didn't win because you set the pillows on fire. Gray answered. Why the hell did you do that? I always give everything for everything, Natsu exclaimed. Oh, how did you give it all to lose? Gray exclaimed. You are the one who lost. Natsu exclaimed. Suddenly, Lucy walked past them and sat at a bar next to Fox, looking at the wooden surface. The 2 quickly ran towards her, not noticing her body language. Lucy. Who won the pillow fight? They both exclaimed. They both waited for her answer as she turned her head, giving them a terrifying look that made them both back away in fear. Shut up, she growled before turning back to the counter as Natsu and Gray quickly backed away from her, taking the dispute elsewhere. Geez, all women are troublesome, Kurama grumbled as Lucy stared at the counter. What's wrong, Lucy-san? Fox asked as it was rare for him to see Lucy so angry. It's Loki, Lucy growled as she rested her head in her hands. He played a dirty joke on me. Oh? Fox said, confused as Loki was not one to joke around, especially with the opposite sex. What did he do? He told me he was dying, he growled. I mean, honestly, that's a sick joke for P. She stopped talking when Fox grabbed her shoulders, making her look up at him. She was surprised to look at Fox. They all looked at him in surprise at his abrupt action. Did he tell you that he was dying? He said in a serious voice. Why, yes, Lucy said with a nod, a little worried by Fox's action. Suddenly, Fox stood up, nearly pushing Kurama off his head, and pulled Lucy out of the guild, the three of them disappearing into the shadows, confusing everyone. What was that? Lee-sana asked concerned. I don't know, Mirajane said with a small frown before turning to her guildmates. Oh. Lucy found herself in a forest clearing after traversing a dark chasm, feeling a bit disoriented. Before she could recover, Fox was carrying her over his shoulder and running through the forest at full speed. Kya, what's going on, Fox-kun? Lucy exclaimed as they ran into the trees. She then saw Kurama next to her, flying as fast as Fox. We have to stop that idiot, Kurama growled. What? Lucy asked, confused. Loki is planning to die, Fox said in a somber tone as Lucy's eyes widened in shock. You mean he wasn't kidding? She asked. No, Fox said. Ever since he joined the guild, Loki has been fighting. I've been helping him with my seals, but this time, he's not asking for help. Loki is sick? Lucy asked, surprised that Loki didn't look sick. Wait, does this have something to do with a heavenly spirit mage? Yes. But why? What connection does Loki have with the celestial spirits? Lucy asked, confused and worried. Karen Lilica, Fox replied. Lucy seemed confused by that. She knows who he was talking about, a heavenly spirit mage in Blue Pegasus who died years before joining Fairy Tail. It was rumored that she was abusive towards her spirits, making her Lucy's least favorite mage. What does she have to do with Loki? Lucy asked. You're smart, find out, Fox said as they kept moving, pouting at him. She tried to think of Loki's connection to Karen. Until now, she couldn't think of anything. What she knew about Loki was that he was a womanizing flirt who joined Fairy Tail 3 years ago. Karen was a magician in Blue Pegasus who died 4 years ago. Her mind raced, trying to think of Karen. She was somewhat famous before her death, due to her looks and abilities. She was also known to have 2 of the 12 golden keys, Aries the lamb, and Leo the lion. We're here, Fox said, stopping suddenly before setting Lucy down as Kurama landed on Fox's head. He found himself near a cliff, and on the edge was Loki, looking at a cross-shaped tombstone. Loki-san. Loki turned his head, looking worse, a small smile on his face when he saw who he was. Fox-san. Don't do this, Loki-san, Fox said, walking towards him. I'm tired, Naruto-san, Loki said, using Fox's real name. It's been 4 years since I killed Karen. I can't live with the guilt anymore. I need to do this. No, it's not like that. Lucy exclaimed, running to Fox, making Loki look surprised. Karen's death wasn't your fault, Leo. Did you tell her? Loki asked Fox, surprised to see Lucy and that she knows who she is. Long enough for her to find out for herself, Fox admitted with a shrug. I told you, she's smart. Surprisingly, Kurama said, causing Lucy to glare at him before turning back to Loki. Leo, I don't know how Karen died, but it's not your fault, Lucy said. Yes, she was, Loki said with a disgusting grin as he turned back to the tombstone. I was her spirit and I killed her. As Loki looked at the tombstone, he told Lucy his story, about how Karen kept abusing his friend, Aries, until he intervened. He told Karen to end her contract with them or he would not let her summon other spirits, which would make her unable to use her other spirits. For 6 months, he put up with it, ignoring Karen's orders, pleas, and promises. And just as he was about to finish her punishment, Blue Pegasus Master told him that Karen desperately took a job and was killed because she couldn't use her spirits. Due to his involvement in his master's death, he was banned from returning to the spirit world as punishment. After that, I just wandered around, finding a way to atone for my sin, Loki said with tears in his eyes, revealing his greatest shame. It wasn't long after I met Naruto-san, and he convinced me to join Fairy Tail out of regret. I did, Fox said quietly. I couldn't let you die for trying to help a friend. Karen's death wasn't your fault. You shouldn't die for it. I was her spirit, Loki exclaimed. Because of me, I killed my master. That is a crime that cannot be forgiven. Suddenly he moaned in pain as he began to glow. He fell to the ground as he slowly disappeared. Surprised, Lucy ran up to him and knelt down next to him with Fox and Kurama behind her. No. Lucy cried as Loki groaned in pain. This isn't right. You shouldn't die from this. It's all right, Lucy-san, Loki said with a small smile. I have a lot of regrets, but I don't regret joining Fairy Tail, because I met so many wonderful people, as well as a heavenly spirit mage like you. Here, Fox said as he handed Loki a seal. Quick, put it on before you disappear. I broke the rules, Naruto-san, Loki moaned in pain as he slowly disappeared, pushing the seal away. This is my punishment. If the rules punish you for helping a friend, then I'll change the rules. Lucy exclaimed as she let out a golden glow, shocking everyone around her. She then grabbed Loki and glowed brighter. Gate of the Lion, I open you. Lucy-san? Fox exclaimed, seeing what she was trying to return Loki to the celestial spirit world. Wait, don't. Loki exclaimed as he tried to pull Lucy away from him. They will kill you. I don't mind. Lucy exclaimed as she forced her magic into Loki. Suddenly, the golden glow flew into the sky and exploded. Suddenly the skies darkened as the air began to swirl above them. Stars suddenly appeared, spinning majestically before a portal appeared. They all looked on in amazement and shock as a being appeared in front of them. He was a giant humanoid creature with broad shoulders, blue skin, red eyes, and an oversized white mustache, wearing royal-like white and blue armor, and a crown with a gold star in the center, his cape moving in the air. Non-existent. Looking like the skies at night. Who is that? Kurama exclaimed as he waited outside Fox's head and transformed, preparing to fight. The Heavenly Spirit King? Loki exclaimed in shock. Why is he here? King? Lucy said in a dumbfounded tone. Do you mean that he is the ruler of the heavenly spirits? He's an awesome fan, Fox commented. The Heavenly Spirit King then turned his gaze towards them, especially Loki. Old friend, he greeted him in an echo-filled voice, power radiating from his tone. You know that it is forbidden for us to kill whoever possesses one of our keys. It doesn't matter if it was direct or indirect. Rules are rules. Leo the Lion, you are no longer allowed to return to the spirit world. Hey, that's going too far. Lucy exclaimed with a furious look. Lucy, stop. Loki exclaimed, looking fearful. Old friend, human girl, the Spirit King said, turning his attention from him to Lucy. That law will not be changed. Law? Lucy thought, looking at the Spirit King in shock. The Spirit King showed up because Lucy-san said that he would change the rules? Even if that's the law, it's unfair, Fox said, standing next to Lucy, facing the Spirit King. Loki has suffered for years, both physically and mentally from the death of his master. Isn't that enough? That's how it is, Lucy exclaimed. Loki-san has endured for 3 years. He suffered for his friend. For Ares. What else could he do? I also feel sorrow for my old friend, the Spirit King said in a sad tone. But rules are rules. What do you mean, old friend? Lucy exclaimed angrily. He's your friend right here, right now. So he listens, mustache bastard. Mustache? Spirit King asked, looking more confused than insulted. Lucy-san. Loki said as Fox just snorted while Kurama chuckled. Karen's death was an unfortunate accident. Lucy continued, ignoring Loki. Loki had nothing to do with it. And he had to suffer for it. I will not accept it. Please, enough guys. Loki cried, looking down. I don't want forgiveness. I just want to disappear. That won't bring Karen back. Lucy exclaimed as she let out a golden glow. Your disappearance won't make anyone happy. It will make all our friends sad, all your friends. Taking care of your friends is not a crime. In a flash of light, all of Lucy's celestial spirits garb around her, all supporting her in front of her king, shocking Loki, Fox, and Kurama. She summoned so many spirits at once. Loki thought in shock. Not even Karen could do this. Listen to her, Loki-san, Fox said. If you die, no one will be happy. Dying is not the same as repenting. Guys, Loki said, looking at his guildmates and the spirits. Suddenly, the glow around Lucy disappeared, causing the spirits to return. She suddenly stumbled, causing Fox to catch her before she fell. Lucy. Loki exclaimed worriedly. Please defuse. If you keep this up, you'll end up like Karen. The Spirit King muttered, looking at them. If my old friend says that, then maybe it's the law that's wrong. Leo, who committed the crime for his fellow Ares spirit, and you 2 old friends, who tried to save that Leo, having considering the beauty of that bond, I will make an exception for this incident. Leo the Lion, I give you the order to return to the spirit world. Loki looked shocked while Lucy had a big smile on her face. She then gave the Spirit King a wink and a thumbs up. You're not so bad, mustache man, she said, causing the Spirit King to give her a big smile. You are forgiven, old friend, the Spirit King declared, slowly fading away. Thanks for the guidance of the star. But, Loki said, crying, still not forgiving himself. If you still wish to repent of your sins, then I command you to help your friends and continue living, protect the friends you have made with your life. This is how you will repent, the Spirit King said before disappearing, the sky returning to normal. Well, you heard him, Fox said, turning to a crying Loki as Kurama turned back to normal. I guess you have no choice but to live, Leo. Loki, with a small smile, stood up and faced the people who saved him. Then he held out a hand to Lucy, which she took with a smile. Fox-san, Lucy-san, he said with a grateful smile as he disappeared. Thank you. In a flash of light, Leo was gone. Lucy, with a smile, looked at her hand, seeing the golden key of the lion. Well done, Lucy-san, Fox said as he suddenly carried Lucy like a princess. Hey, she exclaimed, blushing as she managed to get away from the cliff. Suddenly, she felt dizzy, causing her head to rest on Fox's shoulder. You pushed yourself too hard today, Fox said, feeling how much magic he had left. That was awesome, Blondie, Kurama said, going ahead of Fox. Thank you, he said with a smile as he looked at the key. Let's go home, Fox said as they disappeared into the shadows, heading back to Fairy Tale. End chapter 12.